The court is very conservative on some issues, but on election issues, it's been weak in my view. I mean, the Supreme Court failed again in no small measure this week. There's a law in Arizona. They've been trying to protect the voting rights of citizens from being negated by illegal voting by non-citizens in federal elections. And the Supreme Court has ruled adversely against Arizona's prior efforts in that regard, but they had a new law, and the Supreme Court upheld it, or failed to uphold, and essentially enabled the likely voting of non-citizens in federal elections. This is my tweet on it. Weak. Supreme Courts Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett essentially made it all but certain foreign nationals will unlawfully vote and impact the results of the presidential election in Arizona. Though at least Kavanaugh and Roberts joined with 3 other conservative justices to allow Arizona citizens to stop illegals from voting in their state's elections. Barrett sided with the liberal justices basically on all the issues. And so what's at issue is that there are seemingly non-citizens on the voting rolls in Arizona. It's not for sure certain, but the fact that they provided no evidence that they were eligible to vote in state elections, which, as I note there, still has a citizenship verification requirement, unlike what's happening at the federal level. Tens of thousands, potentially. Now, are they all going to vote? I don't know. But there's no way to check right now or stop them from voting if they're registered to vote, other than the honor system that maybe they'll say, well, maybe we'll be arrested if we vote illegally, even though we're registered currently. And the Supreme Court didn't want to deal with it. 5-4. Excuse me, 6-3. They didn't want to grapple with the reality that there are tens of millions of foreign nationals in the United States here legally and illegally. They're not allowed to vote in federal elections, but because there's no citizenship verification requirement in the states because of judicial interpretation of federal law as it relates to election registration, it's impossible to police it. So when you I don't remember if many of you probably have been registered to vote for a long time, but when you register to vote, you're supposed to certify you're a citizen. That's all. No one asks you to show your birth certificate or your passport or whatever, or your real ID, which in many states under the Real ID law is essentially confirmation of citizenship, at least it ought to be. So we have a crisis, and that's why people are concerned about the presence of non-citizens here in the United States and the failure to have a way to put some teeth into the law to prevent them from voting illegally in elections other than just relying on their sense of honor and not to do it. And Arizona tried to do that, and the Supreme Court failed to intervene to protect their right to do that. And the left has been intimidating the court. Don't forget. I mean, it was just announced this week, for instance, that the guy who tried to murder Kavanaugh, planned to assassinate him, murder him and his family, he's finally showing up in court because the Biden administration's been trying to negotiate a plea deal with him for months. Months. It's been 2 years since the attack on or near death situation for Kavanaugh. And remember, that was all part of the intimidation campaign by the left. He was motivated by that. over the court's rulings on abortion and things like that. And President Trump, I did a video essentially agreeing with President Trump's, highlighting of this issue. Let's play that video.
The radical left harasses our judges and harasses our justices. They scream at them. They call them names. They say they're incompetent. They're horrible. They're this, they're that. They should be impeached. They're constantly saying they should be impeached. But they're screaming. And you know what? It has an effect on some people. But so far, they've been very strong. It's really horrible. I believe it's illegal what they do. And I'm trying to give you things that you've never heard before, and this is true. I believe they are playing the ref. They're constantly criticizing some of our greatest justices and a lot of great judges.
Yeah, playing the ref. Trump's right. And I fear we sometimes get these awful decisions as a result. I mean, on the other hand, the court is very conservative on some issues, but on election issues, it's been weak in my view. And so Judicial Watch has these cases in Illinois and in Mississippi over the counting of ballots that arrive after Election Day. We also have cases in California and in Illinois separately to clean up the voter rolls there. And just to remind you, I don't know, do we have the video where I talked about 4 million voters being cleaned up?
Hey everyone, you may not know this, but over the last year or two, Judicial Watch litigation has led to the cleanup of 4 million dirty names from the voter rolls. But there's still a lot of heavy lifting to be done. We have lawsuits ongoing in Illinois and California to clean up potentially millions more names. And we could be suing Oregon soon because they're not cleaning up the rolls as the law requires. So a lot more coming, and I'll keep you updated.
So a lot more coming. I mean, I think we're going to be suing Oregon as soon as next week. Of course, I'm always hesitant to say that because we never have a lawsuit unless it's actually filed. So who knows? But more is coming. So if you like this type of work, I encourage you to support it because there's really no one else with the breadth and depth of knowledge and capacity to take on these key issues related to election integrity than your Judicial Watch. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.